Hello, this is Dread, and in today's video topic, I'm sorry about the hoarse voice, but I've been talking a lot and working on a lot of different stuff. But this is going to be the full build guide showcase for the Frostbite Heartseeker Marksman. So I already got my character, the first one to 1,000 corruption, the smite build, and I was like, okay, I want to play something different because I have a lot of builds to play this patch. And this time it's going to be Frostbite Heartseeker. I got it all the way and finished with the campaign in like a few hours and got it to like level 80 in a few hours as well, thanks to Super Arenas. Thank you, Super Arenas, for being amazing for leveling up alts, right? And I just started work on a different kind of build from Marksman, and I didn't really enjoy it, so I swapped into Heartseeker instead because I wanted to see how it was doing. Mainly because a lot of people were coming into my Twitch chat and telling me it was bad for some reason. So I was like, okay, all right. Are you telling me this tree is bad? And I went and looked into it more. I think they're just huffing smoke, to be honest. Like, Heartseeker has been amazing so far. Like, complete screen wide clear, like really good single target DPS for what I'm doing right now. Amazing. The only issue I will say is Frostbite Heartseeker specifically is very expensive. If you want a cheap version, I would heavily suggest checking out a bleed and poison version by Trickster instead on YouTube. But the Frostbite one, does it feel so good? Essentially, what we're doing is we are utilizing Troika's teeth to get a lot of frostbite chance generically. Before, this wasn't really easy to do because Troika's teeth didn't really, exist like this before, where it actually converts the bleed from puncture to heart to frostbite. The reason why this is relevant is because it will apply to our Rain of Winter projectiles. Before, you could not make your Rain of Winter projectiles apply that many frostbites, but now you can. And this allows us to run around with Heartseeker and Rain of Winter and like high corruption monoliths and have a lot of fun. And I'm also perma-freezing white mobs, which is crazy to me considering that we're close to 1,000 corruption already, and I'm like perma-freezing white mobs. I even accidentally froze Orbis. I mean, not Orbis. Accidentally froze Aberoth when I went and did his kill, which is insane to me considering that it would have such a low chance at that point that like for that to happen, it would have to be like a 0.01% chance or something, but whatever, we did. But yeah, freezing things turns out to be a very big defensive upgrade. Turns out having things not hit you and attack you is huge for Marksman, and it helps out a lot with the defenses. That is the main upside of playing this version versus the Bleed and Poison version. The Bleed and Poison version does more damage and is easier to set up in terms of investment, but the Frostbite version gets to like actually, freeze enemies and not have to deal with them as much, and is way tankier because of that. So that's cool. Now, a lot of people are asking me, hey, Dread, how do you make Marksman tanky? How do you make Marksman tanky? My Marksman isn't tanky. Well, first things off, just get as much HP as humanly possible. Your build should be doing plenty of damage for the content that you're doing. You should not need too much damage as, Marksman's really good at scaling damage no matter what kind of version you're doing. So make sure you're stacking that HP. Like a good example, I took a 4 LP chest with like HP on it and I slammed on it. And now we have like a double HP chest or a triple HP chest. That helps out a lot. Running HP everywhere on the tree and running HP on your gear is good. That's the first step. The second step is to wear a bleeding heart. We're a damage over time build. Damage over time leech is some of the strongest sustain in the entire game. That's a very good start. The next step is to grab all of the ward nodes. So we are playing a ward retention stacking character. We have like around 100%. I know that doesn't sound like much, but we don't really need that much, to be honest with you. So the idea is we generate 10 Silver Shroud stacks every 10 seconds, and effectively that is 1,000 ward every 10 seconds, which is 100 ward per second if you do the math out right. But it's in a burst of ward, which is actually better for us for phase tanking things. And then of course as well, we have elemental arrows, which that effectively has like 90 ward per second when you max it out and stuff like that. So we end up with all of this ward per second. We end up with ward on freeze thanks to our frostbite shackles, and also as well, our frostbite shackles also gives us a decent amount of ward retention because we have a little bit of cold res on our gear here and there accidentally, right? Cool. And all of that combined leads to us actually being somewhat tanky. We can also as well run a snowblind. So if you don't know, snowblind got buffed recently. It essentially gives you 40% more armor, and it has all the stats that we're looking for this kind of build, and it's very low level unique. So getting a 3 to 4 LP is really not that big of a deal. Cool. And then that on top of shifts 150% increased armor, right? From, running with shurikens and stuff like that, means that we can end up with I think 4 to 5k armor on a marksman, which, before that would be kind of hard and annoying to do, but we end up being tanky because of that. Now, the biggest thing that helped out a lot with this build was getting access to the dust shrouds from the Heartseeker tree. As you can see, I'm running around with 5 to 10 dust shrouds all the time. That's a lot of flat dodge and a lot of glancing blow. We just run just a tinge of increased dodge chance, and all of a sudden we're at 50% dodge, 50% armor. We got 3k HP. We're sitting around at 1,000 ward all the time. We feel absolutely amazing, and our Frostbite Heartseeker are ticking for about 2 million DPS on the boss dummy. 2 million ticks. Right now that's 4 million DPS because the damage over time ticks twice. So that's pretty good for this level investment. That's pretty good for this character. Now, I will say, if you do not like weapon swapping, this is not the character for you. You are incentivized to swap between a Rain of Winter and, of course, I can't remember, a Storm's Fury or something like that. I'll have it up on the screen. Essentially, it's a bow that gives us a 12% chance to duplicate a bow attack whenever we attack with it, which, of course, is really good for Heartseeker, turns out, but also as well, it gives us a fat 50% increased bow attack speed. That on top of all the other bow attack speed that I have, I think I'm around at 220% bow attack speed, which is an absurd amount of attack speed. That's a lot. That's a lot of Heartseekers. So that ends up being a lot of single target DPS. So make sure if you're killing something like a Harbinger, or a boss or something like that, or a tomb boss, a cemetery boss, swap into your actual good Gathering Fury. That's the name of it. Yeah. Swap into your Gathering Fury to do single target. Now, I would heavily suggest not having Gathering Fury on for clear. The biggest problem with Heartseeker is its clear is mediocre. Its clear is okay, but the problem is it's very single target focused. But in combination of puncture on the recurve stuff, right, and stacking dexterity for more recurve chance and all that, on top of that, shooting out a bunch of punctures and Rain of Winter, and of course, puncture giving us generic frostbite chance, right? All of that combined leads to clear that is completely acceptable. If I wasn't freezing everything, I would definitely say that this wasn't worth it. But because of the fact that we freeze almost everything permanently, anything that's trash anyway, it's not like champions or anything like that, but specifically just white trash and stuff like that. Like for instance, I had a few times on stream where I was perma-freezing an entire pack of Wingari Axemen the whole time. And let me tell you, Wingari Axemen are a lot less scary when they're permanently frozen. So that's cool. One last thing to note. Cemeteries and tombs are slightly difficult with this build. There's a few different reasons for that. The first reason is I believe that there is a bug making Erased Witch possessions to do a lot of damage. Also as well, it's a dot beam, so it ignores my dodge, ignores my glancing blow, it ignores my ward pretty much. It just ticks down my ward instantly. It does a lot of damage. It does a lot of procs. If you notice, if you watch the Erased Witch, it shoots out in a Nova, and it's very hard to dodge, especially in areas like tombs and stuff like that, where they're very long corridors and stuff like that. And this build, most of its defenses come from just being able to be mobile. So a possession that pretty much hits the entire screen sucks. That as well, another thing about tombs is, like I said, just the small area. As you can see in the gameplay footage, I run around and I walk around. It's very hard to do that when, of course, there's a corridor. So definitely Pay attention when you're doing high corruption corridors and stuff like that. I would heavily suggest, if you're going to tomb farm with this build, do not push to 1,000 corruption. Push to like 600 at most and then do tombs. Because if you push to 1,000 corruption and try to do tombs while also dealing with erased witches, possessions, and stuff like that, you will have a not fun time. As you know, marksman is just not like, its kit cannot deal with the kind of things that pop in tombs, mainly because of the small areas. It's just a mechanical issue. It's not a stat problem. It's not anything like that. Like, my character is built pretty well. Like, I'm killing Aberoth and doing it very easily. Like, everything's great. It's just tombs are just a little sketchy because of that. So be careful when you enter tombs, as you know, like, you're a marksman. If you get hit 10 times in a row, you will die. Now, with all that being said, let's go in game and talk about the gear and stuff more in detail. Remember, this build is like very expensive, so keep that in mind when you play this version. If you haven't already, I would heavily suggest leaving a like on the video and subscribing to the channel, as that is the best way of currently supporting me, and it's the best way to show me that you want more content like this. Now, with all that being said, this has been Dread, off to go do something else. All right, so here we are in game with the character. Let's go over it in full detail, shall we? So we have Heartseeker's tree. The biggest thing in Heartseeker's tree is getting the minimum recurve chance. This ends up being an absurd amount of damage. Make sure you get this. Also as well, recurve chance per dex. Right now I'm at 80 dex, so this is 40 recurve chance for 1 point. We end up doing a lot of recurves because of that. I also go down here and grab the more damage over time per recurve, so I can get some more damage, because we definitely want it on this kind of build. And then also as well, 1 point in the red veil. This will cap you on crimson shrouds, so you're good to go. You won't die to damage over time as much, thanks to just less damage taken over time. And of course, this gets converted into Frostbite for Heartseeker, specifically because we're Frostbite Heartseeker. Speaking of controlled icicle, like I said, converts frostbite to bleed. Bleed to frostbite. Now, of course, this doesn't matter as much, too much. So Troika's teeth turns our global bleed from puncture into, we can also, obviously get some like poison chance for the puncture to do more frostbites, but like, that's not big of a deal. But mainly, we want as much bleed chance as possible to convert into, ailment chance for Heartseeker. But the reason why Troika's teeth is so good is because the Rain of Winter projectiles don't get that conversion. So having a way of giving your Rain of Winter projectiles a lot of frostbite chance is a very good way of making Rain of Winter a lot more viable as a bow. So that's very good. Also as well, we grab 3 points in the Hidden Skewer. This node is absurdly busted. Getting 10 Dust Shrouds all the time means you're like almost capped glancing blow and stuff like that. Is absolutely amazing. Then we eventually go for exposed, free ferality, very nice, and then straight through for all the punctures. This is how we're clearing with the build, because what'll happen is I'll kill an enemy with Heartseeker, and then it'll shoot out a bunch of punctures, and then those punctures will then hit enemies and do Rain of Winters, which means more clear. So that is how we clear with this character. Without that combo, we would not be clearing very well with this character. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Heartseeker. Now, you've seen stereotypical puncture a lot. Like, if you really need an explanation, bleed chance, more of it, global, turns into, frostbite, then attack speed, mana on hit so that, we don't like run out of mana, then effects just cut toxin. Maybe you could take 1 point out of Mind Piercer and put it into Cadence of Death. I'm not entirely sure how Cadence of Death works with it, but I was told it works, so I would have to try it out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for puncture. It's nothing too crazy. Then Smoke Bomb. Smoke Bomb is just utility, just getting Silver Shrouds, getting Dust Shrouds, getting a free cleanse, and then just giving us, blind and stuff like that. Like, all of that is just mainly for Dust Shrouds and stuff. Very utility for not dying. Then Shift here. Shift is here to proc Sleight of Hand for Shuriken's Throne. The reason why we want that is we want Blade Shield. The reason why we want Blade Shield is because we get a bunch of increased armor. So whenever I do this, I end up with a lot of extra armor. And of course, remember, Snowblind also scales this armor, so we end up with a decent chunk of armor because of that. But that's pretty much it for the skills. Like it's very stereotypical marksman stuff that we've been doing for years at this point. So let's talk about the passives that are important. So getting this node is pretty good. Every 3 attacks, every 3 attacks, your Heartseeker does extra 500% frostbite chance, pretty much. Very strong. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. I'm not entirely sure exactly how it works, but I'm pretty sure that's how that works. Then as well, just the less damage taken and the increased damage based on movement speed, because we have a little bit of movement speed scaling. Eventually you'd want to like grab, dodge, and parry if you could like, refine your tree a little bit, but it's hard to do that right now. I do grab 8 points into Cloak of Shadow for the dexterity. Remember, we are a dexterity stacking build thanks to access to nimble threads. So we just end up with a lot of recurve chance. It gives us percent damage as well. We want both of those things, right? Percent damage and recurve chance. Then for the tree here, getting this less damage over time taken is really good. Also just gives a fat percent damage multiplier. Getting the flat dodge rating here is pretty good on top of the more damage to concentration. Here's where the ward stuff starts coming in. So we have Siege Quiver. So ward gained per elemental arrow. So we generate one every half second. So we generate one per second. And then we grab this to increase the generation rate. So we generate one every half second. So we end up with 90 ward per second from this. And then also as well, covering fire also ends up pretty much like 1,000 ward every 10 seconds. So it ends up making us feel way tankier. So we're pretty much a pseudo hybrid build when we're doing monoliths and stuff like that. Then we also, of course, like I said, we have the ward gained on freeze, which ends up being a lot of tankiness when we're doing stuff, but still very strong, very strong. Then of course we grab the, recurve chance up here. The rest of the passive tree doesn't really do that much for us, unfortunately. So if you did have more points, you would just fill out reflection for extra dodge chance and movement speed and less damage taken. I was trying to fill this out, but I'm only level 97. So fill that out when you get to 100. Yeah, that's pretty much it for passives. Let's talk about gear that's important. So this character is expensive. It is expensive. I would heavily suggest you not play this as your first character. I would heavily suggest you play a different character and farm for the gear ahead of time for this character. Do not try to farm as this character as the first character, because I'm going to go through my gear and a lot of it is absurdly expensive. Even in COF, even in like trade, doesn't matter. I have been giga gaming. I've been making a lot of currency and stuff like that. So just be well aware that it is going to like take you a little bit to get this gear set up. It took me 2 days, but that's because I play a fuck ton and I get rich and stuff like that and spend all my money again and be poor. But remember, this is expensive. So we have a 4 LP Snowblind, HP, damage while wielding a bow, and dexterity. I did not know that you could get recurve chance on the prefix, although it's hard to justify 10% recurve chance when you can just get percent damage and stuff like that. So not entirely sure. Probably go double HP instead of that cold res now. I was trying to cold res stack earlier before, and I was trying to abuse this node, but this node sucks unless you're going crit. If you're going crit Heartseeker, it's like way better. So don't try to cold res stack like I was doing. So you can end up with a better snowblind than this one. Then amulet here, freeze rate multi, HP. Freeze rate multi is very important because it gives us cold pen with Heartseeker. To give you an idea, we're 38,000. Doubles our damage. Make sure to grab some freeze rate multi here and there. 3 LP bleeding heart, HP. Eventually you'd want that stun avoidance to be the tier 7 because it helps you not get stunned as a marksman, right? Because we're squishy in comparison to other classes. Anyways, then let's talk about the bows. So first things off, you want a Reign of Winter with attack speed and percent damage. That is what you want. You want a 2 LP Reign of Winter with attack speed and percent damage. First off, you want attack speed, then eventually you want damage. That's what you want. Then for single target swap, you want a at least 3 LP Gathering Fury with dot, attack speed, and bleed. That last line doesn't really help us too much. That could have been cold pen, but I didn't manage to hit it. Also, as well, you can just run poison. Poison does actually affect our puncture and does actually like convert the poison to like frostbite thanks to troikas. So it is actually extra damage for it. But just remember that, like, you only need a 3 LP Gathering Fury. I just bought a 4 LP one because I just wanted to guarantee the bleed on hit. Then chest here. Eventually you want a +2 to Heartseeker, but I didn't get lucky and I was too stingy. I didn't want to buy a new chest, so I ended up with HP, Dexterity, and then +2 to Heartseeker eventually. Uh, you want those plus levels to get access to Heart Hidden Skewer, and then also as well eventually to fill out against all odds for the more damage. So make sure to get like a +4 eventually and slam it on here. I was just being very cheap at the time. This chest costs less than the Exalted chest that I bought. So yeah. Then Troika's Teeth here. Troika's Teeth with 3 LP. Eventually you'd want like bleed on hit, attack speed, and then damage over time. That's like your perfect setup. Make sure to look for one with like decent mods because like there are a lot of roll ranges on this. So make sure you're paying attention to that when you're buying things. But Troika's Teeth is a really good quiver for this build. Then for rings here, dexterity, LE dot, damage, HP. You could have a better ring than this probably. Same thing here, dot, dot. Eventually you'd want HP and then resistance. Belt here, you want a Praetorian belt base or a coin mail belt base, specifically because you want armor. You want armor to scale with your shurikens and of course your snowblind, because snowblind ends up giving you a bunch of more armor. So make sure to get a armor belt. It helps out a lot. Then of course gloves here. I got a 2 LP Frostbite shackles finally after farming and all that, and like finally bought a pair. I managed to snipe one on the market for like 2 million gold. I was happy with it, and I ended up putting a T6 Dex and a freeze rate multi on it. Mainly freeze rate, like I said, is just a lot of extra damage. It's like 17% pen with frostbite there, and of course dexterity is very good for this character. Also as well, snowdrifts. This pair of snowdrifts bricked, and it was the only 3 LP on the market. You just need a 2 LP one. Don't try to go for a 3 LP one. They're expensive. Just get movement speed and like some kind of HP or dexterity. Either way, probably HP to be honest. Like we want more HP. Then Usulani Sphere. Make sure that you have no attunement or intelligence, and you can end up with a lot of percent damage. This relic specifically, right now, if I were to do the math, it's like 70, about like 550% increased damage on single target. So yeah, Usulani Sphere is a very good item. Make sure to grab one of those. Also as well, we have a Throne of Ambition for the more cold damage and more armor. This more armor also like applies multiplicatively to the rest of our armor, so we can end up like not getting one tapped by random boss attacks, hopefully, and in the monolith we end up just with a lot of armor. And then for the idols, I just went with resistance and HP because I needed it. I needed more resistance and then like some ward per second and some ward retention just to give me like a little bit of extra HP. But to be honest, you could probably dump these and just run more HP and stuff like that. Even more HP idols here. We got bleed chance, which of course applies to our Heartseeker, right? And then, percentage resistance. And that's pretty much it for the character. That's pretty much it for the build. This is expensive. With all that being said, this is Madred. I'll have to go do something else. Bye.